Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. I have been busy in the last couple of days moving my tropical trees from the glass greenhouse here into the plant room. And the plant room is getting very full and I have an awful lot of trees still in the greenhouse here. The greenhouse is getting a little more empty. I have my tiger bark Chinese village penjing here to go in. I removed the houses. I'm just going to grow it without the houses this winter because it's easier to water. My olive tree can go in the basement. I have a couple of ficus here. I've got a Burt Dovii ficus that needs to go in the plant room. My fiddle leaf fig. My big ficus in the corner here. And then down below I have a lot of trees that need to go inside. Oh dear. Some of them are temperate so they can go in the basement. And then on the floor of the greenhouse here, I have some big ones. I've got my Schefflera, my aerial root ficus, my first ficus, asparagus fern, and then underneath here, there's all kinds of ficus and tropical trees. And then up top, I've got more. I've got my Sarissa to go in the basement. The Portula Caryophyra can go in the basement. The Yucca forest, it could go either. And then a few more. So boy, I've got a lot of moving to do still. I'll show you what the basement looks like and then the plant room. Here's a look at the trees in the basement. So the benches are pretty full. The only way I can fit more down here is pack them in tighter, rearrange things a bit. But basically, I've used up all the space down here. Here is a look at the plant room. So it's getting quite full already. I have a lot of trees to move in still. But I moved in the Pruning temple. That was a heavy one. So that's inside now. I got the Frankenficus inside. A lot of the Ficus benjaminas I brought in because they can't take the cold as much as some of the other tropical trees. I've got a flower coming out on my hibiscus here. That's always exciting. Yeah, so it's getting quite full in here, but I've got a lot of trees still to bring in. So it won't just be full in here, it'll be stuffed full. I've got all my stands up top and here and over here. So they're safely put away. So today I'm going to work on Ficus plain. This is one of the Ficus sisters. Ficus plain was almost identical to Ficus fancy when I bought them, and I decided to try two different styles. So this one has no aerial roots, and it's tall and smooth flowing, and it's getting a canopy up top that's getting quite tall. So I'm going to prune that back. It's already kind of hitting the lights there. And you can see some of the leaves are getting a bit scorched just because it's quite warm under the light and quite intense. So I'm going to prune that back today. I moved the ficus out here into the greenhouse to do the pruning. So let's start by having a look at the tree. Here's a look at my Ficus microcarpa. So let's start down here at the root base. So this was the very first tree that I did root carving on. It had a big thick bulbous root here and I carved grooves in it. And it's healing over and looking really, really natural. So that's nice to see. Since I moved the tree into the plant room, it's developed all these roots growing across the surface of the soil everywhere. So that's nice to see also. So the trunk is getting that white kind of bark that an old ficus gets. It's got good taper, and then it divides into branches and then a canopy up top. So I did get a little bit of dieback on some of these branches this year, and it didn't grow really well this year. I think I had it in full sun and it was tough to keep up with the watering on it. I think it just needed a bigger pot. Maybe a deeper pot to keep it happy. But since I've moved it into the plant room, it's really gained some health and vigor. So I'm going to prune it back. My idea for styling this is to make it graceful and flowing. And it's slowly getting that style to it. So I'll continue with that today. I'm going to begin the pruning by pruning out the dead branches. So I've got one here I can snip off. Like that. There's one here. Don't know where that branch went here. And then I've got to look at the overall styling of the tree. This is sort of my main leader that should be the thickest and most dominant, and the other two branches will be a little skinnier. So right now this back one is the thickest, so I've got to let this one grow a little more to catch up. So I'll prune, this branch and this one harder, and maybe leave this one a little longer to grow. So I'm following that leader up, and it's not very graceful in this area. I've got this big long branch that's coming out the front, and it doesn't flow the greatest. It kind of comes up and then off to the side. And I have a better branch behind it, so I could prune that whole front branch off. And I think it probably would be a good idea. You can see it from this view. It kind of comes out the front. Like, it's not the worst leader in the world, but I don't like having these double trunks, this one in front of this branch. So I'm going to prune off the front one and keep my more flowing branch as the kind of the continuation of the trunk line. So here I go. A big cut coming up. So that is gone. So now you can see the trunk line flows a little better. And then it kind of goes off to the right hand side, so I think I want maybe one of these branches as the new leader, keeping it a little more upright. So I'm going to prune off this taller branch at the back here, creating a little more taper to the tree, like that. And then this branch coming out the front, I don't think I want it, but I will prune it back short. I've got a leaf node on the outside here, so I'll prune just above that. Where I pruned it here on the front, I'll carve that back a bit with my knob cutters, just to make this cut a little more flush, so it heals and doesn't have a big lump there. Like that. And I'll seal it with my Titan rubber cement, just to seal that cut up. Just like that. So I think that's looking better, the trunk design. So following this side up, so the trunk comes up, it divides into two, which is nice, and then I have like a third branch at the back going up the middle. They don't come from the exact same spot, but pretty close, but I'm going to leave that. So this one I'm going to prune back to here. And this one back to here. And I'll clean up that stump there, that stub. Trying to create nice, graceful flowing branches. The leader on here is getting a little tall. I'll clean up a stump there. And I'll prune it back to here. And this one, I'll prune back to here. The branch behind is quite nice. It fills out the middle of the tree. There's a dead branch I can take off here, and I'll I'll just clean up all my stubs from the last time I pruned the tree. And then I've got a third branch at this division. I'll take that one out. And another one here that's growing from the junction of these two branches. I'll prune this one back to here. And I think I will just take the tip off this branch to here. This one's crossing towards the inside of the tree. I'll take that out. So is this one. And then I'll prune the tip off this branch. And I will prune the tip off this one also. Will I? No, I won't. It doesn't have enough vigor to prune it back that hard. I'll take an old leaf off here. I think that's it for this trunk line. Oh, except this branch out the back. Oh, and I found another dead branch here I can prune back. And this one I'll take the tip off, like that. And I'm not sure about this branch coming out the back. I think it's okay. I'll see what develops in that area. Yeah, so that's got this trunk line pruned up now. So let's go on to this one, this side branch. So here you can see this branch comes up, it divides into two, one above the other here. And you see that a lot in nature. It's not, you know, it's something that happens. You have branches coming off. So I think I'll prune the top off this one, making this more of a side branch. And I'll prune the top off this one, kind of flattening the branch out a bit, clean up some stubs. I'll prune this to a downward facing leaf, the tip off there. This one also. And there's one shooting up at the back here. I'll hard prune it back to here. Again, kind of flattening that branch out. There's a branch coming out the back. I'll prune this vertical growth off and then prune it back to some downward facing leaves. So that's got this bottom branch pruned up. So now I'll follow this one up. There's a branch here that's crossing everything, going towards the middle of the tree. I'll get rid of that. There's one sticking straight up here I can take off. I'll take this vertical one off here. And I'll take the vertical part off of that branch. Kind of flattening it out. There's one growing in between these two branches here. I'm going to take that out. Cleaning that structure up a bit. Clean up a few stubs here. And then I've got a vertical part here on this branch. I'll prune off this vertical shoot. And I'll prune it back to an outwards facing leaf, like that. So that's got this branch pruned up. So now I'll follow this one up. Here's one growing back in towards the center of the tree. I'll take that out. And I've got a dead tip of a branch there I can remove. I've got a dead tip growing up here that I can prune off. Like that. I can flatten this branch out at least to here, and maybe I could come back further. Oh, I got another dead tip here. I've got two branches growing from the same spot here. I'll keep my better branch, prune this little one off, and then I could take this back, and I think I will. I'm going to take it right back to here, like that. I've got a vertical tip growing up here. I can't do much with that yet. I'll see what happens in that area. And then I've got a branch coming out the back here. And again, I'll want to flatten it out a bit. I don't want this tree to be too tall. So I'm going to take it off right here. Clean up some stubs. There's a strange new branch growing there. And I'll directional prune this one. And clean up my stub here. And that's got that branch pruned up. So that's 2 of the 3 major trunk lines pruned up. So next I'll follow this one up, and I've got a branch coming kind of forward here. I've got a dead branch here I can prune out. I've got a shoot going into the inside here I can remove. Another one below it. I've got 2 branches, one growing above the other, and one is opposite to this front branch, so I'll take the back one off. Like that. And then I've got a dead tip on this branch, prune that away, and I'll prune the tip off this one to an outwards facing leaf. Bit of directional pruning. And the back one I can shorten it a bit to here. So that's got this little one pruned up. So next is this one. So I can prune, I've got a nice spreading branch here. I can prune the top off here. Taking that off. I've got a stub here. Move that. I'll prune this one to a downwards facing leaf. To there. And this one's getting quite tall here. And I'm not sure if I really need it. I'm going to take it off. Shortening that branch, getting a little more movement to it, taper. Behind here I have a dead stub of a branch that didn't make it. So I'll remove that. Like that. So the last remaining trunk line is this one coming up the back here. So I have a branch growing to the inside here I can remove. I've got another one growing to the inside here I can remove. Clean up my stub here. And then this one I can prune to some outwards facing leaves. Taking the tip off. I think this branch is good. This one I can redirect it out to the side a bit more. Just take the tip off. Like that. And then behind that I have this branch. And it's getting pretty tall. I'll clean up this stub. There's a stub here. Yeah, so this branch getting quite tall. Another stub. So this part of it is crossing, the center of the tree. So I'm going to take that off. This vertical one I'm going to remove. And then I'm going to have to hard prune this one back. So I'm looking for leaf scars on the outside here. There's one here, so I'll prune it to here. Shortening that. There's a yellow leaf here I can remove. It's an older leaf. Now, this branch, you can see I've got a division here, and this one's growing very vertical, so I'm going to take that one out. It's just too cluttered in that area, so here I go. Removing that branch. Cleaning out that primary structure, and I'll I'll just make that wound a bit more flush. Again, so it heals nicely. Like that. And I'll also seal that cut up. It's a fairly big one. You don't really need to seal cuts up on a ficus, but it doesn't hurt. This rubber cement kind of stops water getting in and rotting the wood. So it kind of seals it up nicely. Makes your dead wood last a little longer until that wound heals over. Okay, so back to the front here. So I've started cleaning up the structure. I've got the remains of a dead branch here. Clean up this stub. So I'm still following this trunk line up. I'm going to prune this vertical one off here. Prune this one back. There's a stub here I can clean up. And I've got kind of a vertical thick branch here. So if I remove that, it's kind of getting close to this other branch. So I'm going to remove it. I'll get a bit more taper. To that branch. There's one crossing here I'm going to remove. And I'm going to take the tip off this branch. Vertical one growing here. And then I want to prune this branch back. And I think I'm going to go fairly hard. So again, I'm looking for leaf scars. There's one at the back here. There's one here. I can prune it to at least here. And maybe I'll go further. We'll look at the tree when I finish the pruning and just decide if I need to hard prune any of these branches back more. So out the back here I've got a branch. I'm going to prune the tip off this one and tip off this one, and then I've got a long one that's reaching up at the back here. I've got a vertical one I can remove, and then I divide out here so I can at least prune it back to here. I'll take out this old leaf here and I'll prune the tip off here and the tip off here, kind of shortening that. So that is the first round of the pruning. So now I need to step back, have a look at the structure of the tree and decide if I need to do any more pruning. Here is a look at the tree now. So it's got a very flat top, and I think, you know, it needs more of a rounded shape, bringing all these long branches back. So some hard pruning, I think that would help. Other than that, I think, you know, the structure's looking okay. Yeah, so I think I need to do some hard pruning, kind of rounding that upper canopy back. So when you do a hard pruning like this, you know, taking some of these branches, which are getting, you know, a little thick, when you hard prune them back, you get usually an explosion of growth. So you get tons of new branches form. You pick the best ones of those and develop those, and then, yeah, hard pruning a ficus like this, it's always usually good because you get more taper, you get more movement to the branches, you get better branches to select. So I think that's what it needs, is some profile pruning to round out that canopy. So here I go. Okay, I'm not going to use the blue scissors because these branches are a little tough, so I'm going to try and do it by eye, kind of rounding the canopy. So I would come in, if you hold your hand in a curve above the canopy, you can see where to make your cuts. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's Always hard doing a hard pruning. Always holding my hand above it to that curved shape so I can see where to prune the branches. That's getting close. Yes, it's getting close. It's getting that rounded shape, maybe a little more off here. Take this back a bit more. This one back a bit more. I gotta take this one back harder. And I'll just check it from all angles, make sure it's got kind of a rounded canopy. I'm getting a little tall here at the front. I'm gonna do a hard prune. Take this one back. This one back a little further. From the back. This one's getting a little low taper movement. I'm going to take that back. And I'm going to take the top off this one. Ooh, pretty hard pruning here. But I think that has it. I think that's looking pretty good from all angles. Yes, that is being hard pruned. Here's what I pruned off the tree today. So there's a look at the tree. And here is all the branches I pruned off. A lot. So I wouldn't do this if the tree wasn't in ideal conditions in the plant room. This is a hard pruning. It's in the plant room where it gets good light, warmth, humidity. So it should recover quite quickly from this hard pruning. And I think the tree looks a lot better now. I think it looks more mature. It's definitely getting there. This tree has been, fairly slow to develop because it's a taller tree. But I think it's getting there. I'm liking it. It's getting, the proportions are getting better. It's getting, the trunks are getting thicker. It's starting to flow quite nicely. Yeah, so I'll keep developing this tree, Ficus plain, and we'll see how it looks in the future. Here is a final look at the tree. I'll rotate it around so you can see it from all angles. So here's the front, coming around to the right hand side, the back, the left hand side, and back to the front. Here's a look at the root base from all angles. So here's the front, the right hand side, the back, lots of roots forming here, the left hand side, and back to the front. Some big cuts on my Ficus microcarpa, the one I call plain. It'll definitely fit in the plant room a little easier now. It won't be touching the lights anymore. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.